Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. We're continuing our series here, going year by year, looking at the greatest music in that year. Um, Today we're up to 1967, a loaded year. So let's get to it. 1967. Once again, let's go back in through the mists of time. What's happening in 67? A lot. Lyndon B. Johnson is still your president. The BN in San Francisco sets the stage for the Summer of Love that year. So all the hippies come out of the woodwork. The first Super Bowl is played. And I believe, off the top of my head, wasn't that the Green Bay Packers that won that? I don't know. My editor will confirm and correct if I need to be corrected. The Boston Strangler is convicted of his heinous crimes. The Apollo 1 fire occurs, so we lose the first lives are lost in our space program. The National Basketball Association, the NBA, is formed. A Man for All Seasons wins Best Picture at the Oscars. Thurgood Marshall becomes the first African American justice on the Supreme Court. Brian Epstein, the Beatles manager who was key in their early success, is found dead. Hair debuts on Broadway. Che Guevara is executed, I believe, in Bolivia for his revolutionary activities, setting the stage many decades later for lots of clueless college students to walk around with Che on their t-shirts. And Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is released that year. If you viewed my albums I should love more than I do video, you know that Sgt. Pepper was on there. Here it is. So yeah, I'm sorry to say this is such a loaded year, and I don't love Sgt. Pepper's as much as I should. So Sgt. Pepper's only in my honorable mention this year. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go kind of rapid fire through these honorable mentions, and then we'll get to the top 10 of 1967. What else happens here? We've got the Grateful Dead, their debut, which I'm a huge fan of, actually. A lot of people don't. Even Dead fans sometimes dismiss the debut. I think the debut is actually really good. I enjoy it. I like it. They everything's really fast, and it was Jerry Garcia or somebody talked about how they basically recorded it on amphetamines, and you can kind of tell. But it's good stuff. I like that record. You get a pair here. Well, if you include the American release from the Rolling Stones of Flowers, which is fantastic. This was a U.S. only release, sort of mopping up a lot of the singles and stuff that had been on UK releases that had not been available in the US yet. But it actually plays as a pretty great record. The Stones also put out their Satanic Majesty's Request. Right? I always mess up that title. Their Satanic Majesty's Request. Sorry. I actually really like this record, even though I can't say the name. It's kind of funny, this was the Stones' attempt to respond to the Beatles and Sgt. Pepper. It's like, we can do our own psychedelic, cool, And it was sort of a notorious, I don't want to say a flop. I mean, a few Stones records are flops, but it was sort of notoriously panned by fans and critics alike. Although it's one of those records that has gained an appreciation over the years. I don't think it's all great, but there's some really awesome tracks on here. We'll delve into that more on a Stones video. Let's see, Velvet Underground, their debut, Velvet Underground and Nico. Now this is a picture disc, of course, which honestly I'm not a big fan of the picture disc. I just as soon have the actual album cover, but I think I really wanted this, and I saw it in the store, and it was the only version they had, so I just grabbed the picture disc. But you have the iconic banana cover there, created by Andy Warhol. There's the back picture, if you can see without the reflections. Who was it? Brian Eno, who said about that record? I don't remember the number, but there was only like 500 people or whatever ever bought that record, but they all started bands, right? You know how influential that record was. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm a big fan of the Byrds. The Byrds, Younger Than Yesterday, comes out. You know, in a less packed year, this would have made the top 10. This is fantastic, but this year is so packed. You've got The Doors, Wonderfully Strange, second record, Strange Days. You've got one that I have been listening to a lot lately, and if I made this video, you know, a little bit later down the line, this might even get into my top 10 of this year because it's just rising and rising. I love it. I've been listening to it a lot lately. That is the debut from Country Joe and the Fish, Electric Music for the Mind and Body. Wonderful psychedelic record. You know, of its time, but in the best way. Right out of San Francisco. You know, where the whole counterculture really begins. Yeah, this is a great record. I'm going to do a psychedelic video. I've actually already recorded it. I don't know when we're going to put it up, but got a psychedelic video, and I talk a little bit more about this in there. But man, it's great. The Kinks continue their awesome run with Something Else by the Kinks. I really like this record. There are a lot of people who love it even more than I do. I think it's great. But honestly, I'm a bigger fan of some of the other records in this era than this one. But it is still awesome. Still got Waterloo Sunset on there. It's worth the price of admission alone. All right. I think I already mentioned in a previous video, talked about Van Morrison's debut, Blowing Your Mind. I don't really need to say much about that anymore. Jefferson Airplanes, a wonderful, really strange psychedelic work after bathing at Baxter's. You know, it's not the easiest listen, but it's pretty cool. I'm trying to get that. I like that cover. The second record from the amazing Jimi Hendrix Experience, Axis Bold as Love, their second album. Got that. An album cover that supposedly Jimi Hendrix actually, he kind of hated the album art, but I think it's kind of cool. But anyway, Hendrix. Bob Dylan puts out John Wesley Harding. He's very much kind of outside of the whole counterculture hippie thing. This is just a fantastic kind of folk rock, you know, whatever record. That's, speaking of Hendrix, this is the one, isn't it? Yeah, the original All Along the Watchtower, which Hendrix took and, you know, totally revamped later. But the original's on here. And last in the honorable mentions here, the debut from Traffic, Mr. Fantasy. Another one I think I talked about in the psychedelic video. Got two versions of it here. This is the US version. Here's the UK version. And they do have slightly different track listings and different track orders. So they each sort of have their own vibe to them, I think. I prefer the US version on this. So, USA. All right. Top 10. Let's get into it. Like I said, it's a loaded year. I just showed you some fantastic records, and those are just honorable mention. Coming in at number 10 for 1967, I've got the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour. Also featured in my psychedelic video because I think this is their most psychedelic record. Now this is interesting. You know, this was a release in the United States, and usually, you know, Beatles canon is basically the UK releases, but this is the only US release that has sort of been accepted into, you know, the canon as it currently is. And because it's a combination of, I think it was 2 EPs that were released in England, and then some A and B sides of some singles. They're just kind of all put together on this regular album for the US market. Awesome. Very psychedelic. Very psychedelic. I even like, you know, I mean, the hits, obviously, Magical Mystery Tour, Fool on the Hill, all that. I really like Flying, that kind of groovy instrumental. believe, you Beatles experts can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the only Beatles song that credits all four of them as songwriters. I don't know. All right, number 9. I think in the discussion, in the argument for greatest soul record ever released, that would be Aretha Franklin's debut on Atlantic. I never loved a man the way I love you. This is this is this is just a stunner. I mean, opening with respect, right? The Otis Redding song. If Otis wrote it and it appeared on his record first. You listen to Otis's version. It's hard-working man coming home and wants to be taken care of by his woman, right? Kind of standard stuff. What was so revolutionary here is she takes that and she flips the song on its head, and it becomes this great feminist anthem, and in her hands it became a whole different thing. Yeah, I mean, I never, the title track, of course, classic, Dr. Feelgood, Do Right Woman, Do Right Man, Save Me, which rocks. It's a great song. Great version of Drown in My Own Tears. I mean, this essential stuff there. Number 8. Now, this is another one. I'm not going to say too much about it here because I actually, like I told you, I recorded my psychedelic video not too long ago, even though it hadn't been posted yet. I'll post it down the line a little bit. But I talk about this record a bit in that video, so I'm not going to tell the same story here. But I do put Forever Changes by Love here at the 8 slot for 1967. It's just nothing sounds like this. It's a stunner, kind of psychedelic folk. It's just, anyway. Like I said, I go off on this on the psychedelic video, so we'll save it for that. Number 7, we have the second record from Cream. Look at that, man. I mean, if we were doing a competition for psychedelic album art, it's hard to beat the cover for this one. Oh, the record's called Disraeli Gears. Disraeli Gears. And it's the second record from Cream. Strange Brew, Sunshine of Your Love, Tales of Brave Ulysses, SWLABR. Those are the well-known tracks off of here, but I mean the whole thing. This might be the most cohesive record that Cream ever put out in their short career. Let's see here. I was looking at my list here, but I think I have these flipped now. Yeah, so I'll switch this here. So now at number 6, I have, and I think I talked about their debut in the 1966 video. So this is their second record, which I think is even better than their debut. This is from my hometown band, 13th Floor Elevators out of Houston. It's another picture disc here, so let me pull out the disc. Their second record, Easter Everywhere. That's what the cover looks like. And then it's kind of a groovy other side there. Yeah, if you watch the 66 video, I told you a little bit about this band. And I just think this record's even better. It opens with an 8-minute epic Slip Inside This House. And I'm just looking at I was looking for tracks to point out as highlights, but the whole thing's great. I love, it's a haunting cover of Bob Dylan's It's Alright Now Baby Blue. It's gorgeous on here. Dust is another song that's really haunting. I guess, what maybe gives this record the edge for me, over the debut, and the debute's awesome, is there's a little more variety on here. It's that It's Alright Now Baby Blue and Dust. It's got a really haunting kind of acoustic songs that you didn't quite get those textures on the debut, so there's a little bit more going on this one. Another psychedelic masterpiece, I think. Number 5, I already talked about in the Who video that probably was posted by now. So I don't need to say a lot about it here, which is the Who Sellout, which is just amazing, classic. I think this is the peak of the Who's 1960s sound before they got a little heavier in the 70s. For me, this is the peak of that more kind of pop sound. So good. Great concept. And for me, I think this is their greatest concept album. I mean, it's so great. But like I said, watch the Who video. I explained that for quite a while. Number four. Number four. I also think in the 1966 video I mentioned this group's debut. And this is their second album, which I think is even better. Amazing, actually. It's the Buffalo Springfield. And now I'm never sure whether it's the album's title is Buffalo Springfield Again or just Again. I'm not sure. I should check that. Anyway, I'll just say Buffalo Springfield Again. But their second record. I'm gonna do a Springfield video, so yeah, I'll talk some more about this. But half of this is stunning. The Mr. Soul, Expecting to Fly, Bluebird, Rock and Roll Woman, Broken Arrow. It's about half the tracks. Just absolute stunners. To me, just masterpieces, all those songs. And then the other half, the other tunes on here, I think are good. I mean, good to, good filler. But man, the peaks on this are just, some of those songs to me, even though Stephen Stills and Neil Young have very long careers, especially Neil, those still to me stand out as some of the greatest songs those two guys ever did. But we'll get into that some more. All right, top three. We always get the top three in these years, and they're always just, there's no exception here. At number 3, we have, I think, one of the greatest psychedelic records ever. It's so of its time, but again, in all the good ways. And I talk about this in the psychedelic video too a bit, but it's Jefferson Airplane's Surrealistic Pillow, of course. It just captures that era, I think, better than any other record. Of course, the two tunes everyone knows off of here, the two Grace Slick songs, right? Somebody to Love, and of course White Rabbit, which may be the great psychedelic anthem. The whole thing is just perfect. It's so great. Yeah, I'd pick highlights off of here, but I mean every track is awesome. Just get it if you don't have it. Special mention though for Today. I think Today is gorgeous. It's this real spare, this haunting song sung by Marty Balin. Everyone pays so much attention to Grace Slick, and she's awesome, but don't forget they had another great vocalist in there too, Marty Balin. And Today shows you, that's this whole record. It's perfection. Number two may be the greatest debut record in rock history. Maybe. Arguable. I'm going with Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? Or the Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experienced? Now this one, you've got the US version, and you've got the UK version. I'll show you the back. So there's US, there's the back side, there's UK, there's the back side. Now these two actually play very differently. There's, I don't know, 3, 4, I don't know how many, but there's actually substantial, there's some substantial tracks on here that are not on here and vice versa. Now, the band kind of recorded all these tracks in this incredibly productive, kind of series of sessions. But yeah, these play very differently, actually. This one's a bit more bluesy. This one's a bit more psychedelic. You can tell by the cover, too. I mean, if you're going to make me pick, I do prefer the US version a bit more. I should have written this out ahead of time, but I'm not going to try and figure it out here while I'm on screen to kind of tell you what tracks are only on here but not on here and vice versa. But just, they're different enough to where they play very differently. Now, if you want to go compact disc, this is somewhere where I'd recommend, I mean, it's great to have it on vinyl, but if you buy the compact disc, they're these kind of special editions that were put out by Experience Hendrix, which is great. It's got all the tracks. So on the CD, They've got all the tracks on the U.S., all the tracks on the British, and a couple of singles or B-sides that aren't on either. And I mean, honestly, this is one of these rare cases where, you know, if you're going to compare, you know, what's on the two vinyls and the CD, and I actually think the CD is the definitive version. The 17 tracks on the CD. I mean, it's fair because all these tracks were recorded, you know, in the same group of sessions, so they were really, you know, it is kind of the same record, you know, the same sessions. So that's pretty awesome. All right, number one. I told you that Are You Experienced might be the greatest debut ever, but in my view, my number one is the greatest debut ever. I think this is in my view, this is the greatest debut record ever, and that is the debut by The Doors. The Doors. I'll do a Doors video, obviously, coming up soon. Actually, probably pretty soon. I'm kind of in the mood to do a Doors video. But I still, there's nothing that sounds like this. Not even other Doors records. Although Strange Days kind of does. But not even other Doors records kind of recapture exactly this sound. It's just, I think it's wholly unique. You know, and I'm a big Doors fan. I'm going to tell you, I'm a big Doors fan primarily not because of Jim Morrison, but the other three guys. What really usually draws me into the Doors is the music. I mean, sometimes Morrison's shtick is good. And I actually genuinely think he was a great singer for a lot of these. You know, even his later stuff where his voice really changed, I think it works. So, you know, some of his lyrics are great. Some of his lyrics are just juvenile and ridiculous. You know, third-rate poetry, you know, whatever. But he obviously an iconic, you know, singer, iconic figure. I'm glad he was there. But what always draws me into this band is those other three guys. Ray Manzarek on keyboards and bass a lot of the time. You know, Robbie Krieger on guitar and John Densmore on drums. Those three guys just created such a unique sound. Yeah, like I said, we'll do a Doors video and delve way more into that. But this, I think, is the greatest debut, in my view, ever from any band. And it's got Break On Through, Light My Fire, of course, Backdoor Man, a great version of that blues classic. However you feel about the end, it's here. Anyway, The Doors. All right, I told you it was a loaded year. 1968 is too. Actually, the next 4 or 5 years coming up in this series, they're all like super loaded years. So they'll be fun to do. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. Once again, please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the like button on these videos. That helps us get out there and helps us get seen by more people. You can hit the bell for notifications if you want to know when you know, new videos are posted. Well, thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.